Welcome back to the Chasing Common Ground podcast. Now, this guest is special because we were going to record a podcast months ago, but you just had to wait until today. So I am honored to bring on Tyler Argento to the show. I double checked her last name before we hit record just to eliminate any chance of mistakes. But how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I'm
Yeah,
excited.
well, this we are both good at talking, and we've established that there's lots of different like long tangents that we can go off on. So this could be one of the more engaging episodes of the show. So what I want to do first is kind of set the tone for the audience because some of the audience may have not met you before. And so kind of give them sort of like your introduction that you give like maybe at like at a party or whatever, just to describe who you are, what you do, and like what you're all about.
It's always so funny to like introduce myself. But hi guys, I'm Tyler and I am a personal trainer and a yoga teacher and I've been playing sports pretty much my entire life and I still thoroughly enjoy competing in sports. But yeah, I've basically created a lifestyle that I'm obsessed with living. So I love life as much as I can. And I really try to show that through the way I live with people. So
And like some of the other things that I've gotten to learn about you is just your work ethic and drive, like your ability to like think of your goal and then just kind of like obsess about the goal, like working towards it. So recently, like one of your passions, your missions has been your powerlifting competitions that you've been doing. So kind of give us a recap as to this recent competition that you just did. How did it go? What were your lessons that you learned from it?
wow, yeah. So powerlifting, like long story short, powerlifting has really changed my life. I'm obsessed with it. I think I've learned so much about myself throughout this process, personally and professionally, and as an athlete and a coach. But my recent competition was 2 weeks ago. So it was November 9th, and that was my second powerlifting competition this year and in general. And for this one, it was a little bit more, I don't want to say more important, but maybe a little bit more special to me because it was my second one and I put myself through a lot of challenges to perform the way I performed at this last competition. So what I mean by that is I did a weight cut and like long story short, I've struggled with my weight my entire life. So it was really cool to see myself actually finally accomplish this goal, even if it's not where I ultimately want to be. And we have goals moving forward too, which we can talk about that later. But um, I hit a really big life goal through powerlifting. And it was cool that I had that as my accountability. It wasn't like, oh, I need to be smaller. I'm a woman. Like I need to be skinny. It was truly through eating more food, being disciplined through that method, and then also implementing heavy weights. I mean, it's powerlifting. You are literally training to be as strong as you possibly can. And that just really excites me. I know that can scare a lot of people, but being strong is really empowering, especially as a woman. And performing in a strength sport, it can be really intimidating as a woman. And also, a lot of people have told me, like, you've made powerlifting very feminine. And I always find that really funny when people say that. And I'm like, is it because I wore pink? Like, or is it because I wear pink? Like, what do you mean by that? And people are just like, it's really empowering to see a woman get out there and do something that men do. And like, not to separate the two because we can both do the same stuff, but just I don't know, it's been such a cool learning experience to be able to be feminine, like strong and lose weight and hit goals that I've never hit in my life. So I digress a bit, but I lost 17 pounds for this competition. So that was huge for me. And then I added 50 pounds to my total from the last competition. And that just means like through the weights that I hit through my squat, bench, and deadlift. So yeah, powerlifting's really taught me a lot. And I joke and I say it saved me. And I say that about yoga too, but powerlifting really changed my life. It helped me heal a lot of quote unquote eating disorders that I may have had, and my self-esteem, my confidence, my strength. Living life is so much easier, stronger. I live by myself. So that's important to me to be able to do those things. Pick things up, put them down, move things without hurting myself. Also, I'm a personal trainer, so I'm constantly picking things up for my clients. So it's only paid off in so many ways in my personal and professional life.
I mean, from my point of view, because I understood so much of the buildup going into it, and just like being able to learn about you when we were at like the conference, and in the time since then when we would have our conversations back and forth and stuff, like I could understand what went into your drive and like what you truly were getting out of the sport. And then being able to keep up with the journey through the social media posts, it was like you understood the assignment. I've never seen such like uh precise execution of like whatever you were being prescribed from your coach, you were just doing it as planned, as written. And that's not, I say this as someone who has had a ridiculous amount of conversations with coaches, both like on my downtime and just like within the work that I do, and a plethora of conversations with just the general population, whether it's through my walk and talks or networking events and stuff. Like people by nature do not commonly execute things. Like if you go and you look at like most online courses and you see the amount of people that enroll versus the amount of people that actually like complete the course, like it's rare to see somebody complete the whole thing. And so basically what you did was merit based, because if you didn't do it properly, you wouldn't have had the results that you had. And so it was cool because it kind of, for anybody that thinks in the back of their mind, like, I want to go and try powerlifting, you showed them what all someone can get from that sport, both from a female perspective and a male perspective, which I thought was cool because
Thank you.
then, like, even I can transpose it into different sports like jujitsu. There have been times in my jujitsu journey where it has been evident to me that I was getting like kind of complacent. Like I wasn't using technique that I had been taught because it required more energy than I was already putting in. And
Mhm.
so people keep me honest and they're like, bump that person off of you. Like you're stronger than them. Or like put your knee here instead of there because then you're framing properly. And it was just so much insight to take from it. But I would be curious to know, uh, throughout your journey prepping specifically for those competitions, maybe we'll focus on the second competition because that's when you really got things dialed in. What were some of the things that you learned as a coach because of how you were coached?
I was hoping you would ask me this. So I am a coach and I have a coach, and I'm very adamant about talking about having a coach. And she happens to be one of my best friends. So um, I think it's really important for coaches to have coaches. And I don't think it's wrong when coaches don't have coaches. I just think you're opening yourself up to so much more opportunity, not only to maybe go back and forth with the coach, because you're going to learn from that conversation no matter what, but also it's a time. I'm always in a coaching position. I'm always telling people what to do. I'm always leading by example. I'm always doing the thing first and trying to lead example for my clients. So it's really cool to be a coach, take a step back, uh, eliminate the ego, humility, being humble and listening. And I mean, my coach and I have gone back and forth on things so many times, and it's not me questioning her. It's really me asking her questions like why. And I learned through that, through her coaching and also through my own experience and my body. So you only can grow from having a coach. So I highly encourage everyone to have a coach. I think even if you think you know everything or you have the most experience, I think you will always learn something from someone else because everyone has their own experience and has learned things differently or has done things differently, has gone through injuries, has there's just so many variables to the thing. So I, as a coach, have learned so much about just taking a step back, trusting the process, listening, communication. That's been huge. It's like having a relationship, truly. And also, I do stupid stuff and I talk about it in my prep on Instagram. Like, I'm like, here I go again, messing up or like going over RPE or didn't read the instructions or like, you know, whatever, maybe, I don't know. There's so many things that prep is never perfect. It really is never perfect. So that for me is also a like a humble moment for me to have to be like, hey, Haley, I did this week. I don't want to tell you, but I'm telling you. And it's funny because she always jokes with me. She's like, you tell on yourself. And I'm like, I know it just takes me a few days sometimes because first I feel stupid sometimes, and that's okay. Like we feel silly sometimes doing things, but that's how we learn, and it's okay. And through the times that I've messed up and injured myself or hurt myself or tripped or whatever that may be, I've always learned from it. So it's just helped me. It's to help me be like a sponge. It's just helped me be okay with messing up and learning. And I think that's a really important quality in a coach. And I look for that in coaches that I get coached by. My coach has a coach. He's
Hmm.
incredible. Like it's just it pays off to have a coach, literally.
Yeah, and I mean, people can look at it from a lot of different perspectives. So like I'll give some context as to areas where I have a coach. So I do private sessions with one of the professors at the jujitsu place that I go to put things in perspective, just to show how much it matters to have somebody that has like a unique amount of experience. Like this guy is an absolute weapon, but I think I have probably like 60 to 80 pounds on him. But like if somebody owed me money, I would send Huthafa Penny after them. That's his name. So honestly, like there's so much that he has to teach me. He's younger than me, not too much, but a fair amount, like probably at least 5 or 6 years younger. But like even just like life experience he can share with me, and I respect him so much. Additionally, like there have been so many contexts to which I have had mentors or like informal coaching. And that is something that I want to make sure people are aware of, because usually when people like coaches need coaches, the first thing people are thinking about is there's some kind of like a barrier to entry, or there's some kind of like a you have to sacrifice being able to afford food to have a coach. Now, like any coach, whatever they charge, they're worth what they charge. It
Absolutely.
is what it is. But there are also plenty of situations where there are opportunities on the table that people are taking for granted. Like one example, I went to a networking event, and one of the guys there asked me if I could be his mentor. And the funny thing was, he he said he was going to take some guru's course, and I just happened to dislike the guru. So I was like, look, man, I will teach you for free if you just ignore whatever that guy says. But basically what we did is we kind of like we got together on my terms. Like if somebody's going to learn something from me for free, I want to make sure it's like a holistic experience where it's like we're gonna walk and talk. So they have to have the initiative and the get up and go to meet me at the place, because if they can't, then it shows that they don't care enough. Like people can no show to a Zoom call, but it's pretty awkward to leave a person hanging when they're going for a walk. That said, there have been people who've left me hanging in the past, so I plan things that it works out even if I'm going solo. But he showed up and I taught him everything that I knew with regards to what he wanted to learn from me, which was a very much all-encompassing thing of like everything that was in my brain. But he didn't have to pay for anything. And that is an example of like somebody having a coach. And another example is sometimes just for my own benefit, I will go and I'll follow like a remote program of another coach, and I will just choose a coach that has one of those like high volume, low cost programs. There's a lot of them out there. And through that, while you might not have the customized like support calls or maybe like custom programming, you're getting a program that's different than what you're used to, and you're experiencing what it's like to follow their intensity programming, to follow their exercise selection. There's lots of times other coaches will choose exercises that we've never even heard of or never seen in our lives, and then we have to try it out and we have to feel uncomfortable and we have to mess things up.
Mhm.
So no matter what level a person is at, they have the opportunity to put this stuff in their life. And then from like a just overarching perspective, I think it is good for everybody at all stages to find somebody that's ahead of them in the game that can help them, and then find somebody that they can help.
Mhm.
because helping somebody else, and like even if you're not in the fitness industry, like helping somebody else or like teaching somebody a skill, even if it's like how to cook pancakes,
Yeah.
um imparting something on somebody else can reinforce so much of what makes us get so much out of life. Like if we are teaching somebody a skill, we're going to get better at that skill, and then we're going to have that much more to offer. And if somebody else is teaching us a skill, that's part of their legacy that they are kind of like bringing on to us so that we can extend that impact that they have established, that they probably learned from people that came before them. Very similar to like being part of a tribe and having elders in that tribe, or just like looking at your ancestry and wanting to learn from grandparents or uncles and aunts and parents and all that stuff. Like there are things that people had to painstakingly learn that they
Mhm.
are capable of teaching us. And so, like our coaches, they probably learned a lot of things the tough way and they can expedite the process for us. But with that said, what are your plans for your next competition? Do you have another like powerlifting meet coming up?
So Haley and I just talked about this. So I plan to compete again next November. I'm going to take another year until I compete. I would love to do two competitions next year, but I am going to cut another weight class. So because I don't want to completely change my life and make it dreadful, I want to take enough time, about 9 months, cut another like 20 pounds. I know that sounds like a lot, and some people kind of look at me like, why? Because I want to, and I want to do it. I really I like the challenge, and just to be frank, like my body can afford to lose that amount of weight, and I like to say that because weight's a weird thing when it comes to like talking about it, and it's just a sensitive topic. So uh we're going to cut for like 9 months and then hopefully be a few pounds underneath that weight class and compete again. And I hope to just at least match or slightly beat my numbers, which I think I'll beat them. I'm taking a whole year until I compete again, or at least I'm going to go in with that attitude. And yeah, so that's kind of the game plan. And I started my cut literally 2 days ago. So, and I just got back in the gym yesterday, which feels so good. I'm already so sore. It's so funny because you compete and you like max out and you're on such a life high. You take like a week off, you get back in the gym, you change your programming, and it's so humbling. So that's another reason why I really love powerlifting because it just keeps you on your toes. Like, I mean, any sport I think does that. So it's fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot that a person can take away from like having some kind of an end goal to reach towards. Like, I've learned a lot lately with my discussions with people and just my own personal experiences, like the value of like signing up for a thing that kind of holds you to a higher standard. And
Definitely.
there's a lot of ways that we can look at this too. Like it doesn't have to be something scary. Like I totally get how a person might be a little bit intimidated by powerlifting or jujitsu or like a race or anything like that. But like historically, I have signed up for like charity runs. And
Absolutely.
when it's for charity, the pressure's off. Like there is going to be like competitive people, but that's not like when you're telling somebody that you're enrolled in something, you don't have to say that you're enrolled in it for a competitive purpose. It can just be like you're enrolled with it because you're passionate about Heart and Stroke Foundation or you're passionate about cancer research kind of thing. But at the same time, it gives you something in the back of your mind to aim towards, even if it's like a family friendly fun walk, but it's like 10 kilometers or 8 miles or something like that. It gives you something in the back of your mind that kind of holds you to a higher standard, that when you're making nutritional choices, you're thinking about it. When you are doing your daily habits, like if you're prepping to walk a certain distance and you haven't walked that distance in weeks, then you start to think maybe I should be walking that distance to prep to walk that distance. And then just from the standpoint of like my own experience with competing, like I got the opportunity to compete 4 times as a white belt in jiu-jitsu. So it was about 2 competitions per year. And I learned a whole bunch. But the advantage a person has competing as a white belt is everybody that signs up for that category could be brand new. You can go get your like free trial class, they hand you the belt, and you can sign up as long as like you're affiliated. gym gives you the green light, like you've come to enough classes, they trust that you're not going to do something absolutely crazy. But you totally can. And so that takes the pressure off when these are the people you're competing against. Although statistically, most people who are competing are usually they got like two or three stripes because like people just overthink signing up. I was fortunate to have people in my corner who just like gave me that blind self-belief in myself. They're like, no, just sign up and learn. I'm like, yeah, I'm down. I don't care if I lose. I'm gonna sign up and learn. And I had like mixed outcomes. Sometimes I'd lose, sometimes I'd win. But when it came to the last time that I competed, I went against somebody that was like equally matched strength wise for sure, and probably a little bit taller. And it was like fighting a fridge. And there was nothing that could be done. And what it taught me was like, I have to respect the fact that if I'm in like the higher weight class, these people can be very large humans. And unless I have like the upper limits of technique, like unless I am just a prodigy, I'm probably not going to beat a person that is just an absolute unit. And so the way to get a mechanical advantage for me is to cut weight. And very similar things where it's like you tell the general public, like, yeah, I'm gonna lose weight. And they're like, no, you're fine the way you are. It's like, no, no, you don't get it. Like, this is physics. We are working with physics and energy balance here, and
Yes.
I need to be
I
lighter
always
than I
say it's a
currently
science
am.
experiment.
Yeah. So it's just it is funny because it's like we can make a decision for ourselves that is honestly like in the context of everything that we are seeking out to do. It's in our best interests. And so
Mhm.
everybody would be like, "Oh yeah, hell yeah, go for it." But then for some people it's like, "Oh no, you're great." And then other people are like, "About time." Like it's we get the mixed reviews from like whoever is in our circles. Like the people who know us the best are just going to give us the most blunt response. Like the people who know me the best, who are most attuned with how jujitsu works, would probably be like, yeah, you should have cut weight a while back. Because basically to put things in context, I would either end up in the 216 plus class or the
Mhm.
216 and below. So first competition, I was 216 and below. And the other guy was like pretty close to the same weight. And then the other competitions, I'd be 216 plus. And so people could come in their way in 280 pounds. Uh,
Mhm.
Fortunately, that was not the case. I think the heavier guys that I went up against were probably like 240 or something. Um, and in most cases with white belts, the additional body mass is usually not like lean muscle.
Mhm.
They are usually a little bit on a fitness journey as well as a jujitsu journey. And for myself, I have the context to know that like I can comfortably get as light as like 176 pounds. I'm super skinny then. But it's possible. Like it's achievable.
Mhm.
That is not the weight class that I will aim for because I definitely have much less muscle mass and I like to have some muscle mass. So I'd probably aim for something like 196 and down. And that would require me to have like a fairly lean physique and I'd have to be pretty diligent on like my routine because not only would I be prioritizing my strength, but I would also be keeping my conditioning pretty good just to be
Mhm.
able to kind of maintain everything while getting the fuel that I needed for the jujitsu. Because basically, what ends up happening is if somebody has a high volume of jujitsu training and they're also very active, like they're going to be operating in what is often called like the high flux diet, and it's basically like bringing up your energy balance very very high, high food intake, high movement. And like I have some friends who have the most bizarre diets to keep their calories up.
Mhm.
And what I tend to do, like some people will just finish off their day with a bag of cheesies. That's one way to do it. I think that that would just be too,
Birdie bulk.
it could get out of control for a guy like me. I'd be like, oh, I like cheesies. I would like some more cheesies. And then the snowball takes off.
But I think I think so. I have 2 points to this, what we're talking about. So going back to goal setting,
Yeah.
I think that that's really important. Like that can be, no matter what the goal is, it doesn't need to be competition. You don't need to go out and like do a powerlifting competition. You don't need to like go into a jujitsu. meet and like get annihilated. Like it doesn't need to be that extent. However, it's nice to see coaches doing those things, but it can come across as intimidating. But what the consumer is not seeing, or the client, is the whole 20 years before that. And it's funny because now going back to what else you were saying is like, no matter what the goal is, it's important to have a goal. I don't care if it's 3 pull-ups or if it's I want to lose 20 pounds and compete in a powerlifting competition. They both have the same mental effect. You're going to feel confident, empowered, and stronger no matter what. If you hit 3 pull-ups, by the end of 3 months, or if you go out there and crush your meat, it just doesn't matter. And then bringing it back to that, I think it's really important because clients will come into their sessions sometimes and have no motivation to be there. And our job is to uplift them, get them to do the thing, whatever it is, point A to point B. And some clients will tell me, well, I don't need a goal. I don't have a goal. I'm just doing this for my physical health. I understand that. But what gets you here every day? You need to have a goal, even if it's just 3 pull-ups, and not just 3 pull-ups, but it can be something as minor as like, I want to add 5 pounds to my deadlift. I want to hit 3 pull-ups, or I do want to maybe try a powerlifting competition. And those things build those skills and the discipline, and it keeps the client showing up, and it shows them the value of having a goal and being disciplined. And that is so important because that leaks into your daily life. And I joke with my clients all the time, the way you show up to your workouts, and trust me, I've had people respectfully roll their eyes at me when I say this, but the way you show up to your workout is the way you're going to attack life. And maybe that sounds really extreme for people, but there's days I did not want to show up during my powerlifting meet, but I knew I had a goal in mind. I sometimes got off training 9 people of all ages, teaching them new movements. I'm picking up their weights and moving them around since 4 a.m. I'm probably pretty hungry. I haven't had many breaks in between, and I still have to show up and do like a squat PR. And my coach has no sympathy. And I say that with love. And she would laugh if she heard that. Like, she's like, okay, get it done. And I need that. And I would love for someone to baby me, but I don't get anywhere with that. So tough love is really, really important because those goals are set in place for a reason. So I kind of went on a tangent, but I think that's really, really important. And there's one other thing that I was thinking of as we were talking. It'll come back to me and I'll let you know. But I really think that's so important to always have a goal, no matter how big or how small, because it gives you the opportunity to progress whatever that is. One step at a time, 1% better every day, and you're showing up and doing the thing.
Absolutely. Totally agree. And I'm glad you jumped in there because it just like the more that people hear from more than one perspective, the higher the chance that they're going to adopt some new habits, or the higher the chance they'll feel inspired or moved by something. Because like some people have been watching me or listening to me say the same things day in, day out, week in, week out since 2018. So the more different personalities that I bring into the show, the higher the likelihood that something is going to like hit differently for them. And just to kind of like add to the amounts of things that people could choose to pursue that could help them improve. Because we've talked about like the formal competitions, we've talked about little like small PRs and stuff. In addition to that, sometimes it's just a matter of like, one example could be like there's a lot of people who live their life with a lot of pain, and it's just from being deconditioned. Like generally if they strength trained, a lot of the things that were painful would go away just by the sheer facts that they've never strength trained before. um and as a result of getting out of that pain, as a result of all the consistency that it would take to reach that point, it affords them the ability to do things that they used to do. It affords them the ability to make plans that may have at some point felt ambitious. Like one example being like both of my parents are doing some form of strength training. And basically my angle with it is if they are able to follow a program that I give them, great, that's awesome. But if what I give them doesn't make sense to them with the queuing, it doesn't feel executable, or if they just aren't motivated to do it, then they can go find somebody that has like the similar, like somebody who knows enough that they're helping them with the right things, or maybe somebody that I referred them to. Like there's lots of people that I can refer them to virtually, locally, etc. And so like my dad, he's good with following like an online program with me. And then my mom recently started seeing a kinesiologist that is just local to them. And part of it is the accountability of paying somebody because naturally I just don't, I've been sponsoring my parents as athletes for years. I think I billed my dad a couple times because he signed up and it's just what he needed to get started.
Mhm.
But then after that, I was like, you guys have helped me so much. You allowed me to be alive. So I'm just gonna sponsor you. But
I completely understand. I train my parents too. Same situation, for
yeah,
sure.
and I just like when I think about life through their eyes, their competition is being able to continue to travel
Hmm.
and not feeling any hesitation to travel. And then I think about some of my clients and I think about the things that they enjoy, the things that fill their cup. And a lot of for them, it's like nature walks and traveling as well. I see you're gonna say something. Go ahead.
Well, those are goals.
Yeah.
Those are goals, but clients sometimes don't realize that waking up and rolling out of bed is a win. Rolling out of bed in pain, that's a goal to roll out of bed without pain. How do we fix that? We strength train.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's your motivation to get out of bed, to show up and at least give 80%. You don't always have to be 100, but show up for yourself. And the more you show up, the easier it becomes. And it's so empowering. And when in yoga, it's called shit the ritti. It's a mind chatter. And it's like, it eliminates that. You just kind of like get it out. Like just I'm going to warm up in 10 minutes. I'm going to feel so much better. And then, like, that's why we have a warm up. It gets your CNS fired up, your central nervous system. It's mind, body, soul. It teaches you all those things. Man, I'm so passionate about this. I could talk forever about this.
I
Uh,
know.
yeah, fitness is the best. I'm biased,
Yeah.
obviously, but it is. It teaches you so much.
Well, and it's just like there are so many people that haven't experienced like the enjoyment of fitness. Like maybe
Totally
been
understandable
exposed.
too.
Yeah.
Because not
Uh,
everyone is at that point where they're hitting their meets or something. It's like small goals, one step at a time.
well, even just like the crazy thing is it comes up in so many different angles. So it
Mhm.
could be the approach that we take with our conversations or with our clients, like helping them discover what is a goal to them. Other clients, it could be like they're prepping for a wedding, so that's tangible. They know what they want. They know what they want to achieve in advance of the wedding.
Mhm.
In some cases, it's like fitting into custom tailored clothing. In other
Mhm.
cases, it's sort of like having a look that they were familiar with from before. So they could look at a picture from 5 years ago and they could look at a picture from now and they want to get back close to that picture from 5 years ago. And they
Yep.
know what they need to do to make that happen. In other cases, it is like they want to spend time with their grandkids. And what do the grandkids do? The grandkids like running around like crazy and they're active all day. So this person needs to be able to be active for 8 hours straight, unbroken. And that is like the tangible goal. And then like from a fitness professional point of view, we have to familiarize ourselves with the fact that we need to present like some kind of a gap for people. Like you can't just be like, you're just gonna do this because I said it's good. It doesn't mean anything to them.
I
But if
always
we,
say, meet the client where they're at.
yeah,
Absolutely. Meet them where they're at.
well, and just like help them understand what it is that you can specifically help them with. So like maybe it is that they needed to understand that there was hope for a different future. So like they're say it's a scenario they're 35 years old, they have no underlying health conditions, life was otherwise good, but they can't lift something above their head. And so they just figure, well, I'm in my 30s. I just won't lift things above my head anymore. I guess I'll just hire somebody to move all my heavy stuff. And like people do that. There are people who do
Yes, they
that.
do. Yes. Which is
And
okay. But
yeah,
there's an opportunity there.
well, there's a huge opportunity because then
Absolutely.
we can basically outline what's possible for them and just like sort of give the path of what they would take. Like it's like, okay, if you work with me for this period of time and you're adherent to your scheduled programming and you follow the nutrition protocol, we can expect that you will have an improvement by this day. And if
Mhm.
you didn't have an improvement, it would be assumed that you probably weren't doing the stuff. And we can figure out what happened and get back on track. But then they understand like what it is you can do for them. Whereas if we're like, yeah, we're just going to help you lose weight, and like, I don't think I need to lose weight. Like maybe
Mhm.
they don't, maybe they have no desire. That might be an outcome that happens, but maybe they don't have a desire for it. Like there's some people that go into this stuff because somebody made fun of them and they feel like they have to be somebody that they're not because somebody was critical of them, but they're not necessarily motivated themselves. So it'll take a lot of pain for them to make that change. And then
Mhm.
there's opportunities where we can really understand the person and we can understand, okay, so here's what it is. Like you like going skiing, skiing makes you happy, and by strength training, you gain more strength. You're able to go skiing more. Like that was it for one of my clients. Like he didn't need to lose weight at all. And I actually got him on higher calories
Mhm.
and we trained legs more. And then
Mhm.
he had more energy, he was happier, and then when he went skiing, he didn't have to take breaks every 10 minutes. He could go the entire time and he outlasted everybody else that he went skiing with. And then from that, he got more brave, he got more excited, and then he went paragliding just recently. And as a part of that, he met his girlfriend. Like there's so many things that can come from like all the confidence building aspects of it, but it's
Yep.
up to us as coaches to help people understand themselves enough and to present enough different ways for them to make progress.
Absolutely.
And it is totally just like meeting them where they're at, but more than a just like, hey, how are you doing? Do you like this exercise? No, Kate, we're gonna do this other exercise. Is more than that. Because like from a viability of business, like businesses, if you go and you learn from like a business seminar that has nothing to do with fitness, they're going to tell you you have to come up with like your value proposition. Like, what problem do you solve?
Mhm.
And I am very much against making up problems that don't exist. But
Mhm.
if
Oh,
somebody is like, I can't get out of bed because I have pain from being deconditioned, that's tangible. That is just, you haven't strength trained. If you get stronger, life is going to be good. We can do that.
mhm.
Or if a person is like, I haven't pooped in like 2 months. I've really been struggling. They might not be eating vegetables. So if you
Totally.
just get them eating vegetables, just a simple thing like that, it could be a game changer. And most people, based on especially North America, we look around our cities and stuff and we look at what's available and we look at what's on the menus and the portion sizes. It's a very high chance that most people with any kind of like digestive issues, vegetables are probably a big factor in that, and like whole grains and sources of whole food that has fiber in it, and just like helping people to be able to choose those food items could be a game changer. But unless we address that, then they could be thinking, oh man, just people aren't built like they used to be. I guess I'm just breaking down. I guess I just call it a day and lay on the couch and just ride this one out. Maybe I'll have some Tums, figure it out.
It's always so tough for me to hear those comments because I've I mean, I've been in that position before. I wasn't always a personal trainer. I've had my own journey. I've struggled. I have gone through it all. And it's it's like if people want to argue that, it's like, no, I really have gone through it all. And without going through those things, I wouldn't be able to talk or lead by example. So it's always tough for me to hear those comments. Not it's more so because it breaks my heart, honestly, because first of all, I empathize because I understand. And then second of all, we have to meet the client where they're at. We have to, it's like it's a mindset shift. And it's really, it takes a lot of practice having those conversations. I remember when I was a green trainer, like I've been a trainer for almost 12 years now, but in the very beginning, having those conversations were really hard. And sometimes I would offend people and I'm like, oops, like that's not how I meant it. I didn't mean it to come across that way. But you learn from experience, you have to mess up. And hopefully the client will understand, like, this is what I meant to say, or whatever it was. I mean, it's not like I was insulting them, but there's just a way of meeting the client where they're at with your dialogue, and those mindset shifts can be really tough. So we have to be a chameleon. It really is true, but it's hard. But a good coach will talk through that with a client and make small changes. I think what becomes super overwhelming with clients, especially in the beginning, especially when they haven't built the trust with their trainer yet, it's one thing at a time. For example, I've trained one of my clients off and on for about 10 years, and she'll come back to me every couple years and she'll train very consistent, and then she'll fall off, she'll come back. She always feels better when we're training consistently. And of course, we know that. She knows that. It's not like it's a big secret. But she, whenever she comes back, it's always full force. And I'm not speaking poorly of this client, but I always have to reel her back. I'm like, look, I know you want to be here and you will get there, but we've got to take it one step at a time. And coming from the business side of it, where people, I don't blame them, they can become a little bit skeptical of personal trainers, especially if they've had a trainer in the past that maybe wasn't the best experience. The trainer that's sitting in front of that client now has to kind of debrief that and figure it out and get through all that stuff before you can even like honestly start your job. You have to kind of break that down because the self-limiting beliefs and things like that. But I always have to tell her it's one thing at a time. I will not give you another task until you do this one thing for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever it is. It just really depends on the client. And sometimes she does it, sometimes she doesn't. And we have to have that conversation, but it's okay to look at it as a long-term experience and to take things one thing at a time. And now I remember what I was going to say. This beautifully ties back in is sometimes like my clients will be like, why are you putting yourself through this? Because sometimes I'll look tired. Maybe sometimes I'm not like my bubbly self. My clients are okay with it though. I'm still showing up and, doing the job and we're getting the things done. But they're like, why are you putting yourself through this? It's because at this point in my athletic career, in my professional career, this is what challenges me. And that doesn't make me better than the client, not at all. That is not what I mean by that at all. It's, first of all, I'm in the professional position to be doing that. So I should be at that point where, I'm challenging myself to this level of whatever it is that I'm doing. And when you break it down like that, the clients are kind of like, oh, okay, I understand. Okay. And then, because sometimes you'll get like, why are you doing this? Like, you're not getting paid for this. You're paying to do this. And I'm like, I know. Like, that's the point. It's to make me better, truly, as a coach, client, human, like person in general in society. So, yeah, that kind of tied back into that point.
I mean, that was perfect. It's funny because like it's like I was saying earlier when we started off the podcast, like you're passionate, I'm passionate. So there's just a lot of like uh basically
We can talk for
passionate
days.
rants that come from this conversation. Um
I was so nervous to get on here because this is my first time being on someone's podcast. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, am I going to articulate my words right? Like, I get really passionate. I start talking with my hands. I forget my thoughts, but it's like, no, that doesn't matter. It literally goes back to what I was saying. How am I ever going to get better at speaking if I don't just do it? And that's why we're here.
yeah.
And I think you knew that because it was hard to get me on here and not because I didn't want to do it. It's truly because I was nervous. So,
Yeah.
anyways, just speaking and like trying to lead by example, like I put myself in uncomfortable positions every day. And historically, it always makes me better. And I want people to experience what I experience because it has helped me as a person so much. And I want everyone to feel that. Like that is my passion in this career. Like it's fitness, it's be strong, be healthy, live as long as possible, try not to, try to beat the toxic soup that we live in every day. And that's a totally different tangent, but it's truly just to like get people feeling better, 1% better every day, get out of bed feeling better, make your knees not hurt as much, be able to get off the toilet, be able to pick something up off the floor at 84 years old. Like those are the wins. And that's what fires me up. If you
Absolutely. So there's so many takeaways that I can go to from there. One of the things that I just want to bring up is like you talk about people observing things and like how you're feeling as you're in the thick of it. Going through the weeds of preparing for a competition, of cutting weight, of keeping up with your training after and like just so people understand, like Tyler, your workload of client sessions that you're doing is more than average. Like there's a lot of busy trainers and coaches out there, but most aren't as busy as you are, and you are quite humble about it. So just for people to understand, like, it is very impressive that you're able to execute your training with the workload that you have. And so it is inevitable. You will look like super, super tired some days. And there will be days when you're probably just barely trying to keep it together, trying to remember if you're about to do a squat or you're about to do a deadlift, or whether it's going to be fast tempo or slow tempo, or what weight you're going to put on, or like all these different things. And you're just going about it the best way that you can, which, like, from the standpoint, like, observing how people do things, a lot of the reason that people don't do what they say that they were going to do is because they spend too much time obsessing over getting it perfect.
Mhm.
And the fact that you're willing to put in the effort, to put in the reps, will get you further ahead than the people who are procrastinating, who are just trying to get everything perfect, who are delaying things, delaying things, delaying things. They could be like, I had 5 sessions today, so I can't train. Whereas you might have had 9 sessions that day and you trained, even though you forgot what day it was or something like that. Like, it's a perfectly realistic space to be in. And like when we think about people that we admire in the world, people who like paved the path for us, people who we're learning from, they all did that stuff. Like if I had talked to my parents about like their teaching careers, they did the equivalent of that stuff. Like if you talk to your parents about any of the journeys that they've had, or if you're talking to clients that you have that are maybe like they're far along in like their career, etc., there are times when people just see how much they are physically capable of because nobody's getting out of this alive. But then what happens is we end up auto-regulating. Like we can push ourselves, we can push ourselves, we can push ourselves, but at some point, we do need to kind of take time to smell the roses. We need to travel, or we need to just go for a calm walk, listen to music, make music, all these different things. So I'd love to hear what you have planned because you're going to have a little bit of a lull between now and your next powerlifting meet. What are some of the things that you're structuring in for yourself to kind of fill the buckets that need to be filled for the rest of your wellness and happiness?
For this upcoming year
Yeah.
until the next prep. Yeah. I'm still kind of thinking about my game plan. I kind of just decided on competing in November and the 20-pound weight cut by like August, hopefully. But what I can speak on is this last prep, I did so much to set myself up for success that people really I didn't talk about on Instagram, or I didn't really speak about in person. I did so much prep before this last competition a couple weeks ago that really helped me. So those things were like those goals were, set my online business up, at least get the skeleton, and start getting some beta clients in there. It doesn't need to be perfect. And going back to the perfectionism, I am a recovering perfectionist. Okay, everyone, it's a real thing. Like perfectionism has hindered me in so many ways, and I like drive myself crazy. Like I probably look crazy because I'm like, Tyler, ugh, like going back and forth with myself. And I'm like, no, just do it, just try it. And honestly, the more you fall and the more you realize you don't hurt yourself and you only scratch your knee, it gets so much easier messing up. And failure is success. I wrote it in a post not that long ago. And with failure comes success. You cannot not be successful from failing. You will always learn something from whenever you fail. So to go back to your question, I really tried to set myself up for success. So I just like did stuff. I just did it. I got a game plan. I brain dumped it on a paper. I wanted my online business set up. I want to lose 20 pounds. I lost 17. I want to be settled in my new apartment because my last prep was so unconventional. I moved my business, like all this stuff happened. Oh, that was another thing. I moved my business before I started prep to a new gym that I'm working at. Shout out 400 Fitness Club. But yeah, so I think though, like, it doesn't need to be perfect, but you need to be real with yourself and you need to like write those things out or like get it out on paper or speak it out, whatever works for you best, and be real with yourself. And don't expect everything to get done overnight. And definitely respectfully, don't expect your coach to fix everything. It is they are like a sense of accountability. Like it's up to me to get the work done. Like my coach can only get me to do so much. And I mean, there's days where I'm like, oh no, like dragging my heels in the sand, like, no, I don't want to do it. But having that sense of accountability will help you get those things done, which is another reason why I think having a coach is so crucial if you are looking to grow and be challenged and learn through new things and add new tools to your toolbox. So yeah, I guess, I mean, now that I've got that all set up, I think my main goals for going into this next competition is give myself enough time to lose the 20 pounds without feeling like I'm completely crushing my social life and all that kind of stuff, and still enjoy training. Finish my online business, setting up my app, getting my videos in there, my coaching cues, all that kind of stuff, just the logistics. And just give myself the opportunity to like maybe just start talking about the product that I'm, trying to share with the world. And my business has gone from mainly in person. Like, thank you for your compliments earlier. I do train minimum 20 sessions a week in person, and some of those sessions have 2 to 3 people in them. So there's a lot of personality throughout the week. So just, and talking about the business side of personal training, like you can only be in person so much. So if I want to continue to monetize and take care of myself, how do I expand my business? So that was kind of the whole game plan, and doing that was really hard. I'm not going to lie, it was really hard. I cried a ton. Like, you just have bad days and you fail and you pick yourself up and you keep going. Don't try to be perfect, just try to get something out there. And it's super cool because like I have clients in my online programming and I'm like, hey, these things are going to be changing. And instead of me thinking, oh, damn, like, sorry, I cussed, but dang, like, it's not the perfect product for this person, but I get people in there, they're doing it, and I have something to like offer to them. Like, this is going to be changing, this is going to be evolving, and it truly gets the client excited. So I think just looking at things in that perspective really helps to keep going. But I digress. But yeah, those are my goals in order to keep me on track and to keep going. And I look at it now and I'm like, that's going to be exhausting. Okay, let's just try to figure it out day by day, one day at a time. I will say it again, and I say it all the time, 1% better every day, 1% more every day. It's not 10%. 1% a day, that's like 30% a month on average. I'm okay with that progress, especially when I feel like I don't have to turn my whole world upside down. I still feel like I can like go to bed and, call a friend, go on a walk, have a social life, still go to dinner. And like, this can be controversial in the fitness industry, but like, have a drink and not beat myself up about it. It's just it's a social aspect. So however you want to look at that.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots to be taken from that, and naturally, I will just basically rally. So essentially, when I think about my to-do list, I'm very much like you, where it's like I've set out all these things for myself, and I don't always get all of them done. But what I've learned as time has gone on is there's like certain like cool moments that just like stick. So for me, I've felt like I've been on like a rocket ship the last like 3 years where it's like work just keeps coming and opportunities keep coming, and it's not because I wouldn't say it's because I'm lucky. It is definitely because I've earned the opportunities. Like I'm out there grinding.
Yep.
But as a result, sometimes it's hard to like know when to stop working, and when to work more, or if
Mhm.
I'm doing enough, or if I'm not doing enough. And I'll look at like my to-do list, like things that I'm looking to do on the back end of my business. Um, and I'll look at like different like revenue goals that I have for different lifestyle things that I want to put in place. But the thing that set me like that stopped me in my tracks, I have two examples. So one of them, I went on that trip to Denmark in May, which was like super spontaneous. But when I went there, like some of the things that just like struck me was just like having the perspective of like a lifestyle in a different country, in a different environment with different family members and stuff like that, and just like widening my being able to experience and appreciate more than what I thought was enough. Like feeling like when I'm at home and things are good, like I'm feeling like, ah, yeah, this is great. I get to be connected with like my siblings, my nieces, my parents. I got lots of good friends that I can connect with and stuff like that. But to take myself, uproot myself, and put myself somewhere else, then I was, oh, but then I got these connections and I got this lifestyle, I got this and I got this, and I'm learning all these things. And some of the things that I was learning, I was like, I really like connecting with people who have similar passions and similar values and similar goals. And I'm learning opportunities where I can like help people outside of my career with skills that I've learned from my career. Like the number of times that I've almost acted as a consultant for people who are like tired of like their job, or for people who are like trying to figure out how to be stronger and which nutrition to do. And it's not like a formal arrangement, but it's an arrangement where like my presence has an impact on others. But I took that for granted before I did that trip. And the
Mhm.
second example, I was dog sitting for my nephew Lemmy, the dog. And so spending all this quality time with him, and I knew this would be the case. I knew it would give me exposure to what it would be like to have a dog. Because like I would have a dog as a kid, but it was always an outside dog, and like the last family dog we really had passed away when I was like a teenager, and then since then my family didn't really have a dog, and then it would just be like if my siblings had a dog or something, I would see them like once a month or something. And so this was an opportunity for me to see what kind of responsibility it takes to take a dog out for walks 3 times a day, and what it can accumulate if you give the dog no limit on the duration of walk that you're willing to offer. I was walking 3 hours a day with Lemmy on some days because I was like, we're just gonna walk until you don't want to walk. And like we got to a point where like he just sniffed stuff just to sniff stuff. So I just scoop him up and like point him in the right direction and take him back to the door. But like I started to realize I was like, okay, like we will get older and the time will fly by and the goalposts will keep moving and we're always going to have stuff to do. But like some of the moments that really stuck with me was like getting to connect with some of like the younger cousins in Denmark. Everything from like the really, really little ones to just the young, like 13-year-olds, 12-year-olds and stuff, and just like understanding life from their perspective and offering like different guidance than what they would have gotten from YouTube. Like the things that kids are looking up on YouTube is ridiculous. And so I started to realize I'm like, oh, I'm the adult now. So I can actually impart life lessons that are valuable. Like I take it for granted. And I wouldn't have had this insight if I hadn't just like booked that trip across the ocean and just gone. And then even so, I wouldn't have had the insight as to like how when you're dog sitting, because like you as a dog owner, you're gonna understand. But like for me as a non-dog owner, it was heartwarming to see what it's like when somebody's excited for you to come home. And when somebody's like excited, like you're going
Yes.
upstairs and he's going upstairs, and you're going downstairs, he's going
Right
downstairs.
under your feet.
Yeah. And I
Yep.
was like,
Your
this
shadow.
is so nice. And
It
despite the
is.
fact like he tries to get in fights with other dogs or like socially awkward with people, like every dog is different. Every dog's got their personality. So no matter what dog we're talking about, they're gonna have their quirks. I met lots of other people's dogs. But like it teaches you things and it just
Yeah.
helps you realize like what life is like there's more to it. And what I have witnessed in the people that have come before us, like the older legends in the industry, they'll have something that happens that's like earth shattering and completely unexpected. Like let's say somebody injures both their knees and they can't walk for like 2 months. Or in some cases, it's like they have some kind of like a liver failure or they have a stroke. Like there's stories of this throughout the industry of people who have been doing it for decades. They're in their 40s or 50s now. And it's just thrust upon them to be like, whoa, I got to slow down. They're no longer given the choice and they have these same epiphanies that I was having when I was just spontaneous. And I was like, I'm gonna stop. I have these goals and I have to be accountable. I'm just gonna stop. I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna just learn some stuff. And I'm still gonna like fulfill my obligations to some people, but I'm gonna say no to a lot of other people. Like when I went to Denmark, I was able to keep up with my clients. I was able to keep up with any of my core obligations, but I said no to a lot of consulting I said no to a lot of location stuff.
Mhm.
And I had to tell people that I couldn't make something happen until like a few months later. And then when I was dog sitting, I said no to like 90% of like in-person meeting requests that came up, said no to a bunch of events because I had shit to do. And in doing that, it gave me the opportunity to learn these lessons while I still had time to have the compound effect of it all. Um, because another side tangent that I've had within investing is that when I'm investing, when I detach my emotions from the investing and I focus strictly on like data and facts and trends and like looking at numbers, like for example, if you look at like the volume of money that goes through one industry versus the other, like pharmaceuticals versus like textiles, like clothing and stuff, they're totally different numbers and they're
Mhm.
influenced by totally different things. And like
Mhm.
we can look at this through emotion as to like what we want for the world, what we want for people, all this other stuff, or we can look at it through what would be the outcome of making this decision versus what would be the outcome of making this decision, or what's the compound effect of this decision versus what's the compound effect of this decision. Then we look and we put that back into fitness lifestyle and we start to see, okay, if I finish up my online program and get this done at this time, what's going to come of it versus if I just decided to, like, let's say, for example, you just decided you wanted to take 2 weeks to go to Phoenix or something. And you found out that when you did that, it gave you clarity or
Mhm.
it you gained valuable connections or something. And this isn't me like pitching that you have to do all these things, but I just found it to be like super, super valuable. And I think there's a lot of people out there that are probably listening to this conversation that might be reluctant to change it up in 2025. They might be reluctant to whether it be setting the goals or doing something that just seems way off script, not to
That's
plan.
That's funny you bring that up because actually I'm leaving this Friday for the East Coast to be with my family for Thanksgiving for 10 days. I'm working a little bit. I'll be training some virtual sessions. Besides that, I'm not really going to be working. I might do a little online stuff to get organized, but I don't plan on taking more than literally 24 hours out of that 10 days to work, like no matter what. And then I'm actually leaving for 2.5 weeks again in December to go back out to the East Coast to be with my family for Christmas and New Year's. So it's funny that, oh my gosh, the old version of Tyler would be freaking out and not even over, and respectfully, I say this, not even over money. It's over my mind staying busy and being out of my routines and not having access to the gyms that I go to, like a powerlifting gym, for example, or like it's the access to the grocery stores that I so thankfully have out here in California. There's going to be things that I have to switch up. Am I freaking out? Okay, yeah, I'm a human a little bit, but I'm not going to let it take away from the experience. What I tell myself in these situations and I tell my clients is I am consistent all the time. My body, my mind, my soul can afford to do this. I put in the work before, I set myself up for success. I can literally afford in all those buckets to take time off from work, from life, from responsibilities, from, answering people 24/7, email, like I'm allowed to check out. You can set yourself up for success by staying consistent in your daily life, showing up in your daily life so you can feel good about taking time off and away. And it is so crucial to take time off. I even in I didn't every time I compete, I take the next week off. The last competition, I took 2 weeks off. This time I took a week and a day off. Like it just depends on what's going on in my life, but we don't always need to be going 100. We need to take a step back, and this is where the yoga comes in. I like to always say, we need to take a step back in order to go forward again. We need to take a few steps back so we can go forward a few more steps. And it's crucial because we need that time to recharge, to fill up our cup, to fill up our battery. And it needs to come from things that authentically make us feel good. And if you don't know what that is, then take time to figure that out. You have to. It is your responsibility. And I know these things can kind of come across as me maybe being mean. I put that in like quotation marks, but it's truly like these are the things that I needed to hear. So I really don't have a problem respectfully saying it to someone else. And I don't know, my clients keep coming back. So I mean, it must kind of work. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. You know what I mean? Like I'm making a joke out of it, but it's like take a step back to go forward and stay consistent in your daily life so you can take those breaks and actually enjoy the breaks, because the breaks are always going to catapult you and be the catalyst to the next adventure, the next promotion, the next up level of your career, your life. Maybe like you meet someone in a relationship because you've created space in order to do that. I mean, there's just so many things that can come out of taking breaks, and it's crucial. And clients have a really hard time doing that sometimes. And one more thing, going back into like powerlifting, there are scheduled breaks in prep. Like we're not always going 100, we're not always maxing out. I'm basically training at 50, 60, 70% most of prep. You save the max out, the 90, the 100%, you save the 100% for the meet. So that's just another like example of slowing down, and you don't always need to be going 100%. But like I said, old version of Tyler would be freaking out about this. Learn from those experiences, learn how to set yourself up for success, find what makes you feel good and implement those things. And if something's not working, tweak it, change it. You're not stuck in one position. You don't need to like force these things. Let yourself have that flexibility. Be gentle with yourself to change those things in order to mesh that mold into your life. And we are evolving creatures. So let yourself keep evolving and let those things keep evolving with you. Nothing's permanent. And like that's the fun of life. Like I have goosebumps saying that. Like that's the shit that gets me going and that keeps me showing up for not only myself but for my clients as well. So
Absolutely. I mean, you got me thinking. So right now I'm pulling up Well Simple. That's where I do my investing because I want to look up an example because what I found is a lot of people benefit from my bizarre analogies that I come up with. So I'm about to come up with one of them, but I want to fact check
I
before I.
love it.
So, yes, as I expected. Um, if anybody follows the stock market, Nvidia is one of the highest performing newer-ish stocks. Like we got Apple, they've been around for a while. Nvidia's been around since like the 90s or something. And for anybody not tech savvy, they're basically the developer of video cards, which then expanded into like processing power, which became very pertinent to the development of AI. So Nvidia kind of like leads the charge with like whichever nation's going to lead with AI development. The reason I bring this up is because we talk about like planning out rest, planning out breaks, planning out all this stuff. And what people tend to do, especially high achievers, is like, oh, but not me. No, I don't count. I'm from like this. I'm from that. This is my background. I do this. I do that. Identify with this. And they try to make themselves an exception to the rule. There are no exceptions to the rule. You have to have a mandated break. You have to go on vision quests. You have to like take your foot off the gas sometimes. I do it all the time. There's lots of times when like I was having a discussion with somebody about this the other day. It was like I say I run out of oomph.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have all these things on my list and I have like maybe a spare 4 hours. I don't have any more oomph. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like me auto-regulating. It's me taking a step back. And basically what I'll do is I'll just like lay on the bed, stare at the ceiling and listen to instrumental music and just like, or I will just go for a 4 hour walk just to go for a walk.
And how
And
do you feel after you do those things for yourself?
I'm usually like, it's like I got an upgrade. Just I'm
Exactly.
performing on a better level. And
It
so to put
always
things.
pays off.
It does. And back to the analogy on finances. So, September 2022, the Nvidia stock was about $12.90 US cents. And then it went up in August 2023, it went up to 44. And then in October 2023, it went down to 40. And then it went up to 91. And then it went down to 83. This is in 2024. And then July it peaked at 139, and then in August it went down to 107, and then it went up August 28th, it went up to 128, and then it went down to 109. And if we look at like a 1 year trend, despite all these ups and downs, the overall pattern was over the course of 1 year, it went up $93.1. So 188% over the past year. Then over the course of 5 years, this 5 year trend is ridiculous. It went up 2,682% based on where it was at the beginning of the 5 years. I went from like $5 to $145. And with ourselves, like if you talked to a broadly developed investing expert who understands more than just money, but like holistic health as well. And I know a lot of jacked entrepreneurs who would definitely see eye to eye with this. It is basically like if you're looking to invest on the thing that gives you the best return, it's you.
Mhm.
And so if you want that big percentage year over year, like you talk about the 1% better and how that adds up, that is basically how the maths. Like
Progress
1%
is
on the
not
year.
linear.
Pardon me?
Progress is not linear.
Yeah. Well, it's that, and it's just like we can look at the calculation of like daily return on investment, but then we can look at it on yearly return on investment. So theoretically, if it was like 1% per day, my math might be brutal. So if it is, somebody can comment on YouTube or something. But over the course of the year, given that there's 365 days, theoretically it would be 365% return on your investment over the course of a year. And like it could even be more because you might
Mhm.
go down, up, and your average could be more than 1% per day. Or you might have a spike, like maybe you went and you had this rest where you got to let your brain rest. You had some really good conversations with family. You got to meet some different dogs. You got to eat some different food, and you just the perspective enriched you to the point where you saw things from a different mindset, and you would inevitably improve. So where it can seem like counterproductive to listen to a person's advice to just like step off the gas and just chill out, is probably the best advice. And even if a person is like at a stage where they don't feel like they're quite where they want to be, if they want to get to that point, then that's what they would have to do. But one thing I have to say is we are both very good at going on tangents, and I want to be respectful of your time. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for you to give my audience a piece of advice that they can take away from you as they finish up this episode with us, as they go about their day. What's a piece of advice that you'd have for them that they could implement in the next week?
Going to be very simple, and it's two words. Just start. Just start. And if you don't know what to do, hire someone to help you. Coaches are we're here for a reason, and it can be very intimidating, but there's a reason why we're here. So just start and seek advice on how to start if that is just totally so daunting. There's a lot of free resources out there too. So just start. Just start. Every day you don't start, you're one day, one day is already gone.
Yeah, and it's true. Like life will just pass us by. Birthdays get closer and closer every year. It's nuts. It's crazy. The people that we knew as babies are now adults. Like life do be like that. I was talking to my dad the other day, and he was like, it seems like it was just a small period of time between when you were in your 20s and when you were in your 30s. And I was like, oof.
I know it's crazy. The other day I was like, my dog is turning 7. Like, what? Like that
Oh
was like,
no.
what? Yeah, exactly. It's like time flies. So just start. Seriously,
Yep.
just and taking it to fitness every day is so valuable for your health. Literally start.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's time to
Agreed.
hire a coach if you don't know how to start. It is time to hire a coach.
And then if they already have a coach, they can just start whatever they haven't yet done.
Yeah, I mean, if you already have a coach and you're already doing the thing that you're doing, like continue doing it and like refine. Try to do
Yeah.
it a little better every day. seek advice, ask your coach questions. Like, it's a relationship. Ask your coach questions. Like, give them the stuff send your videos to them. Like, don't ghost your coach because they're gonna
Yeah.
help. So
Yeah.
that maybe that's an opportunity for someone. But yeah, I mean, just start. And if someone already has a coach, and like, for example, really quick, I had someone sign up with me last night, and this morning they messaged me and they were like, so what if I was to compete? What would that look like? And it's like, good. These are exactly just ask the questions, just
Yeah.
start. There's no harm in asking those questions, and it gets the wheels
Agreed.
turning. I never thought I would be competing in powerlifting at the age of 31. Okay. So just start.
Agreed. Agreed. And I'm going to keep you on the call after we finish recording. But before that, I just want to thank you for being on the show. I'm glad we were able to make that happen. And yeah, thank you, Tyler.
Thank you so much, Chris. This was so much fun.